Hi everyone, Professor Aquino here with the first of 3 videos that are going to cover some basics on how to write, edit, and revise an argumentative essay. This video is intended for both my 1A and 1C classes who are both currently working on or will start to be working on their argumentative essays, essay number 3 assignment. The only difference between the 1A and 1C class in terms of the essay assignments that you've been given for essay number 3 is that you'll be writing about 2 different books, which means 2 different essay questions. And also the 1C class essay assignment has a research requirement, meaning you'll need to find a couple of outside sources to help you support your argument, whereas the 1A essay assignment doesn't require any research. Other than that, the basics that we're going to cover in terms of how to write an argumentative essay in these 3 videos are going to be the same all the way through for both classes. So this will be hopefully a helpful video for both 1A and 1C. In this video, we are talking about how to write a good grounds body paragraph. In the next video in the sequence, we'll be focusing on rebuttal body paragraphs. And in the third video, we'll focus on how to revise and edit your argumentative essays in terms of incorporating as much ethos, pathos, and logos as possible in the essays that you write. So back to this video and how to write a good grounds body paragraph. First, some basic keys to remember. Remember that your thesis statement is also your claim if we're using the terminology from the Tolman model. It's the main or major point that you, the writer, are trying to persuade your readers to accept and agree with. In the context of your essay number 3 assignment, of course, your thesis statement is also your answer to the essay question. And remember, the key there, one significant key, is you need to have a clear, consistent answer throughout the entire argumentative essay that you write. You can't toggle back and forth between the 2 different sides of the question. You need to stick to one side, choose one position, and stick to it for the entire essay. And also, every argumentative essay needs a target audience. Who are the readers who don't already agree with your thesis statement or claim? Again, argumentative essay means that you have to work to convince your target audience to accept and agree with your claim. And as much as possible, this will be even more relevant in the next 2 videos in this series. As you write, revise, and edit your argumentative essay, you want to have a very clear vision of who your target audience is. Who is that group of people that you are trying to convince, rather than just all of humanity or everyone that you know? Is there a specific group of people who you know would disagree with you? And therefore, imagining that specific audience will benefit you in terms of different aspects of your argumentative essay if you have that specific audience in mind. Let's talk about grounds body paragraphs. In terms of writing grounds body paragraphs, the goal is to step-by-step convince your readers to agree with your thesis statement or claim by persuading them to accept 2 or more grounds. Each grounds that you present and each grounds paragraph that you present should build towards the thesis statement or claim that you're making, like rungs on a ladder, with the thesis statement or claim at the top. That's why it's in your introduction paragraph, right? It's at the top of the ladder. It's at the top of the essay. Until I've convinced my readers to accept my first grounds, I can't move up the ladder to my next grounds. So that's what each paragraph is doing. In that paragraph, my job is to convince that reader to accept the grounds that I'm presenting in that paragraph. Then the next paragraph is the next grounds, all the way building up to my thesis statement. Or if you're working from the floor up, to continue the grounds analogy, if I can convince my readers to agree with one idea in one of my body paragraphs, and I can convince them to agree with the second idea in my second grounds body paragraph, and I can convince them to agree with another idea if I have a third grounds body paragraph, and so on, and depending on how many grounds you decide to present to readers, then readers will be increasingly likely to agree with my thesis statement or claim. I'm trying to get them to agree with small ideas or smaller ideas, and the more of those smaller ideas that they agree with, eventually they should be much more likely to accept my claim or thesis statement, which is my big idea that I want them to agree with. For example, if I'm writing an argumentative essay and my thesis statement or claim is that people should remain celibate unless they are married, celibate meaning, of course, no sex or sexual intercourse. If that's the overall claim, the big idea that I'm trying to get my readers to accept, that I want my readers to accept, my target audience, whoever that target audience may be, what I can do is set up a series of grounds. And if I can get my readers to accept these grounds, they're going to be much more likely to accept my claim that people should remain celibate unless they are married. So my first grounds and my first grounds body paragraph would focus on convincing my readers that sex can be dangerous to people's physical health and well-being. So I'm going to talk about some of the ways that sexual intercourse and sexual activity can hurt a person's physical health, can damage their physical well-being. I can talk about some of the diseases and things of that particular nature, and the havoc that some sexually transmitted diseases wreak on a person's physical health. I would provide evidence of those diseases, evidence from credible academic sources, all the while just trying to convince the readers just of that idea. Yes, I want the readers by the end of that paragraph to agree with me that yes, sex can be dangerous to a person's physical health and well-being. That's all I'm trying to do in that paragraph. Can I get them to agree to that idea? That is my job in the span of that paragraph. In my second body paragraph, my focus shifts to another set of grounds, still building towards my thesis statement. But again, I'm just focusing on a smaller idea rather than the big idea. Secondly, I can work on convincing my readers that extramarital sex damages people's mental and emotional health. So the first paragraph was about physical health. This paragraph would be about mental and emotional health. And again, I can provide, or I need to provide, explanation and evidence from credible sources, all while focusing on trying to convince readers of that second grounds. Can I get them to, by the end of that paragraph, agree with me that yes, extramarital sex damages people's mental and emotional health? Again, I'm not trying to get them to agree with my thesis statement or claim. I'm just trying to get them to agree with that idea. If they agree with that second idea and they agree with my first idea, they are much more likely to agree with my main idea, my thesis statement or claim. Third, if I had a third grounds body paragraph, I can work on convincing my readers that having extramarital sex sets a bad example and it encourages others to engage in this unhealthy behavior. So physical health in the first grounds body paragraph, mental health and emotional health in the second grounds body paragraph, and now how does it affect other people? That would be the focus for this third grounds body paragraph, right? Again, explanation, evidence, working hard as hard as possible through my explanation and my evidence to convince readers that this third grounds is valid or true. Yes, I agree that extramarital sex sets a bad example and encourages others to engage in this unhealthy behavior is what I want my readers to agree with by the end of that third grounds body paragraph. Those would be my three grounds, and I would write one body paragraph for each of those grounds, in which my goal would be to convince my readers to accept each idea. If I can accomplish that, again, it'll be easier to convince my readers to accept my thesis statement or claim. So again, I move up the ladder paragraph by paragraph until I get my readers to the thesis statement. If they agree with every rung of the ladder building up to that thesis statement, to the top of that ladder, then they should be more likely to agree with the thesis statement at the very top of the ladder, the very top of my essay. So let's look at some examples that are relevant to, or actually, I skipped a step. Let's look at the basic structure of a grounds body paragraph. Should consist of four things. There should be a topic sentence that clearly states the grounds that you want to convince your readers to accept. You need to provide explanation for why your readers should accept those grounds, as well as evidence that illustrates why your readers should accept the grounds that you're presenting. and explanation for why the evidence proves that readers should accept the grounds. So all of that is kind of working together. What's the goal? Readers need to accept. I want readers to accept the grounds that I am presenting in the paragraph. Right. So everything is kind of clicking together like parts of a machine. Is how a grounds body paragraph should work. For example, for my 1A students specifically, if my thesis statement or claim focuses on whether or not a person's actions and accomplishments should be celebrated by creating a holiday honoring that person, one of my grounds could be that a person who does something extraordinary that almost no one else could have accomplished deserves to be celebrated. So what would that look like as I start to construct my paragraph? Well, my topic sentence could say something along the lines of, and this is for the graphic novel V for Vendetta, which is the text that my English 1A students are writing their argumentative essays about for essay number 3. My topic sentence could say something like, the character V accomplished his goal of destroying the fascist government of England almost entirely on his own, which no ordinary person could have done. Therefore, he deserves to have a holiday honoring him. And I forgot the therefore. So this is the idea in the paragraph that I'm trying to convince my readers to accept. Again, not worrying about the thesis statement or claim necessarily, just this smaller idea. Can I get them to accept this idea? Is what I'm trying to do in this paragraph. To do that, I need to provide some explanation. So I can say, for example, that the idea that a single person could take down a country's government by themselves without almost no help from others seems impossible because, and provide my reasoning, that V actually accomplished the impossible should be celebrated because it can and will inspire others to follow his example and strive to accomplish things that no one believes can be accomplished. So that idea of inspiration, why it's important to have holidays honoring people who inspire people to do great things. Honoring people who inspire others is important because, and again, I want to provide some good explanation, some good logic and reasoning, some good logos in order to persuade my target audience that this is a good idea. This is a good grounds that I'm offering, right? I left some of that explanation unsaid because I don't want to do all your work for you. This is your essay that you're writing and your argument that you're making. But this provides what I hope is at least a good starting point and a good model to start as you start to construct your argument, outline, draft, and move on from there with essay number 3, right? I'll also need to provide evidence from my primary source, which is the graphic novel V for Vendetta. So I can pull from pages 185 to 187 and say that by himself, V stops all government audio and video surveillance of citizens by blowing up the buildings where the surveillance occurs. And this will be my central piece of evidence in this paragraph. I'll need to explain how that evidence supports my grounds. How does that prove that that readers should accept my grounds? I can say that stopping the government surveillance of citizens would be seen as impossible because, and provide my reasoning, right? So because I always want to support those grounds that I started with. The government surveillance of its citizens was evil and needed to be stopped because, and again, provide some explanation of why I think it's evil. It was evil for them to do that and why it needed to be stopped. And these accomplishments will inspire others to work to end evil and immoral attempts by their government to watch citizens without their knowledge or consent. So that is the start of a grounds body paragraph working to convince readers to accept the idea that someone who does something extraordinary deserves to have a holiday honoring them. For my English 1C students, if my thesis statement or claim focuses on whether or not a person's action is morally right or good, one of my grounds could be that any action that atones for something morally wrong that a person has done in the past is a morally good action. To atone for something means that you apologize and strive to make up for the wrong that you've done in the past. So for essay number 3, my English 1C students are writing about the graphic novel The Vision, volumes 1 and 2. If my idea, if my grounds was any action that atones for something morally wrong that a person has done in the past is a morally good action, I could craft a topic sentence that says something like, by committing suicide at the end of the Vision graphic novel, Virginia atones for the deaths that she is responsible for. Therefore, her choice was a morally right thing to do. And again, that's all I'm trying to get my readers to agree with in the space of this paragraph, that her action of committing suicide is her attempt to atone for the deaths that she's responsible for. I'll need to provide explanation. Causing the death of another person is morally wrong because, and provide my explanation and logic and reasoning for why I believe that and why I think readers should agree with me. When someone is responsible for another person's death, they must atone because, so they must make amends, they must make an apology, of course, and strive to fix the wrongs that they've committed as best as they can. Again, provide my explanation and reasoning on why I believe that and why I think readers should agree with me. With an essay assignment that requires outside research, I should try to provide a quotation or passage from an academic source that supports the explanation that I'm giving, the logic and reasoning that I'm providing, maybe from one of the ethical codes, the 5 ethical codes that were presented to you as part of your essay number 3 assignment in preparation for reading The Vision. I'll need to provide evidence from my primary source, which is the graphic novel. So I've pulled from chapter 11, titled You and I Were Born for Better Things, where Virginia kills Vision's half-brother Victor by phasing through his chest and ripping out his heart. I can explain that killing Victor was morally wrong because, and why I believe that, and my explanation and my reasoning. By committing suicide, Virginia atones for killing Victor. Before she dies, she tells Vision that she has confessed to the police that she killed Victor. This shows that she accepts that she is responsible for Victor's death and that what she did was wrong. Killing herself to atone for Victor's death was morally right because, and again, provide my explanation or reasoning why I think that, why I think readers should agree with me. Again, I'm not going to provide all that explanation because I don't want to do all your work for you, or even the majority of the work for you. That explanation and reasoning should be coming from you and what you believe and what you how you see things. Okay. So hopefully going through those examples, going through the process, explaining the different components of a grounds body paragraph and why they're important to include in an argumentative essay. Hopefully all of that has given you a good starting point and foundation for the argumentative essays that you're going to write for essay number 3. In addition to this video, I'm also going to post the Word document with all this information that's been typed out for this presentation, so that you have that as notes along with the video itself. If you have any questions about how to write a good grounds body paragraph, as always, email me. If you have any comments about the video and how it worked for you and whether or not it worked for you, please leave them in the comments for the video itself. In the next video, I'll talk about rebuttal body paragraphs. So I'll see you there.